Hear the world calling, but son, don't you listen. They're only trying to drag you back into prison, that's right.
Welcome back to What Have You. I'm Rachel Jankovic.
I'm Becca Merkel.
And the rain is with us tonight.
I don't want to boast, but I'm going to. I think
2 weeks in a row.
2 in a row, guys. We're on a streak
So
now.
if you want to know how we're doing at December, we are nailing it. 2
Also-
podcasts in a row.
Also, praise report number 2. Do you hear weird rumblings from my heater?
What?
Yeah.
Success.
Silent. We are heated in a sort of a silent way tonight.
That is especially luxurious.
You'll hear the rain, but you won't hear
Silent
the rumbling
heaters.
of the theater.
So tonight
Theater.
we discovered that we hosted a giveaway of my new
Did you
book.
discover it tonight too?
No, I'm saying
Oh.
tonight we discovered that Becca had no idea that we
yeah.
hosted a giveaway of my new book.
You can tell I've been tapped into
You
social
can tell
media.
she's been all over on social media paying close attention to everything that's happened.
Because my daughter, I said to Jemima, I was like, yeah, I think we're going to try and podcast tonight. And she goes, well, that's good because you have to announce the winners. And I said,
what winners?
winners of what? And she was like, do you not know
We're
about
raffling, Becca. We're raffling
I
off
said
a
no.
back seat slot for someone to podcast with us. So if you fly out here to podcast with us, we will try to really make an effort to show
That
up
is
and
hilarious.
do it instead of
You
miss
shouldn't
that
say
week.
these things. People won't know you're lying. And they'll
I
think
am
that-
lying. That's not what we were raffling
No.
off. We were raffling off. No raffles. There was no raffling involved. It was just a
straight
drawing,
giveaway.
a giveaway through Canon for my new book. And there are 3 winners. And I don't really know
Do
how
we
to
have a
like
drum
get out
roll?
like
Do we
the
have,
fanfare here.
Do we have like special effects
We
we
have
could add?
You do special effects. I'll say their name. You do the special effects.
Listen carefully, guys. It might be you.
It might be you. Okay, our 3 winners are Shell Rosengren, Jenny Squires, and Lindsay Wise. So,
Nice.
I'm supposed to tell you that you should hear from Canon Press. If you don't hear from someone at Canon, you can email jake@canonpress.com if you're Lindsay Wise, Jenny Squires, or Shell Rosengren. So those are the
Awesome.
3 of you who won.
Way to go, guys.
Yes.
Way to be in it. I didn't know there was anything to be in, but I'm
But-
glad you did.
I almost gave Becca a chance to win her own copy since she missed it. But
You can just give it to me for Christmas, Rach.
oh, what a treat that would be!
I'll give you my book, you give me your book.
I read your book; it was a good book to read. Oh, it was worth its time.
I'm going to give you a quiz. See if you paid attention.
Okay, go ahead, Becca. Becca, what? Becca and I were just talking today about how badly we remember things that we wrote, which is to say not at all. And I think the worst one, the problem is if you put a title on a chapter, that doesn't indicate much to me. Like, in one time, this is years ago now, but when I realized Panic Attack Central over this, I was a radio interview with someone, and it was the time that I learned to have a copy of the book that they were interviewing me about with me.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because they would just say things like, so about chapter 5, like, I was just like, no idea what you're talking about. Or then they would say, like, they would reference some part of it, like, circus. And I'd just be like, what? Like, I have no idea what we're talking about. And in that particular radio interview, I was running around our house trying to find a copy of my own book, which I could not find.
That's
So I
awesome.
did end up having to be like, tell me a little more about that
I
section
said.
you're asking
What
me
I
about.
said in that time. No,
Give
the
me
thing is,
a clue.
I know what I think, and I still think everything I said in
Congrats
here.
on that. That's a
But
step in the right
if
direction.
someone just casually references maybe part of an illustration I used one time, I'm going to need more. I'm going to need something beyond that.
You're like, let's dig into this a little
It's
bit
not like
more.
I forgot what I thought of feminism. It's just I might not remember exactly how I phrased it in that moment. You know.
Yeah.
So
I think it's funniest when you read so in the process on this book I had a couple times where you had a break from the book, you know, and then you come back to it to go over it again. So you don't really recall what you've done.
Sure.
And when I came back to go over it and you're reading it, there's something so bizarre about the moment when you're like, whoa, I've never thought about that before. And you're like, but clearly I did think about that
might
before.
have been down this trail once.
because I've at least one time thought of this.
Because I see that I tied a ribbon on this branch.
I did. I must have been here once.
I left my hoodie here. So I've been here before. Yeah.
Unless there's like raccoons getting into the garbage, taking stuff out. So, anyways, but yes.
Goodness.
So, here we are going gangbusters towards Christmas.
We are charging down the road.
I am randomly sewing pillowcases. These are the things that take you in December when you're like,
why are you sewing pillowcases?
well, I'm not sure how it happened at the outset. I'm not sure what triggered it. Like, I can't remember the ground zero of why I decided to do this. But thinking about in our new house, in our kids' new rooms, like that would be a fun thing for them. You remember when Grandma Grainside sewed? Did she sew us all pillowcases? Because I had a strawberry shortcake one.
Well, I'm still back a few steps. You're not doing this for Christmas. You're doing it for your new house.
No, I'm doing it for Christmas, but because everyone's going to have a new bedroom at our new house, that I thought I'm giving it to them for Christmas.
Is it like a sham? Or is it like a pillowcase?
Straight pillowcase.
Interesting.
Well, the funny thing is, it's been in my subconscious for a while. I'll expect all of you to go Google this if you don't already know what I'm talking about. I've seen it around as like a magic pillowcase, or I feel like a burrito pillowcase is another name for it. It's like a...
I'm giving her a real...
I would like to be able to paint you a picture of Becca's face at me right now. How little affection she has for my burrito pillowcases. No desire to get involved with those.
Walk me through it. What's special about it?
It's that they're quick and surprisingly fun to do, I think, is probably the heart of the matter.
But
so,
why
okay.
is it a burrito?
Okay, so you have 3 pieces of fabric. So you have the cuff of the pillowcase, a trim on the pillowcase, and the body of the pillowcase.
Yeah.
And so you have one is a quarter of, no, not a quarter of a yard. Yes. One of them is 9 inches. So yes. And then 3/4 of a yard is so a 27-inch slice for the body of it. 9 inches for the cuff, and then a 2.5-inch piece for the trim. And then what you do is you have them, these are all selvage to selvage, like 42-inch wide or 45-inch wide. And so the 2.5-inch piece you iron lengthwise in half. Like just into like that. And then you take your 9-inch piece of your 9-inch... It's hard, guys, it's hard to talk about crafting when someone's giving you the dirt face. When someone hates it so hard they can't even bear with you.
I'm not hating it.
Okay,
I'm skeptical,
you
but
have
I'm
a
not
9-inch band, and then you do your ironed in half piece.
Yeah.
So it's right side up on the 9-inch band. Iron in half trim piece, you match up the edges on that. Then you take the body of the fabric, the main drag fabric, and you put it right side down lined up on that. Then you take that piece, so you have those edges all up, you take the end of the body fabric and you roll it up into the middle, and then you take the band piece, the other side of it, whip it over the top and pin that all together. So you have 5 fabrics all together. It's a French seam. So it's one French seam that sews the cuff, the trim, and the body all together.
Okay.
And so then you sew down the line, then you pull everything out of the cuff. That's why it's probably called the burrito, because you have this long tube of fabric. And then you pull it all out, and then you French seam the sides. But it makes a cute multi-fabric pillowcase in a very short amount of time. And it's satisfying to do French seams in a tricksy wixy way. And that's really what got me involved in it.
So what are you doing? Like a different one for each kid, or you?
I know what happened. I know why I got into this. I know
Why?
ground zero.
Why?
Because I happened upon a high quality boy print quilting fabric, which I wasn't shopping quilting fabric. I was at I think it was at the Hope Center. And it was a roll of one that had World War II planes on it. It was like a cute, but it was like a boy fabric that was a nice, cuter fabric. And I bought it because it was at the thrift store and because I have plenty of cute florals.
Interestingly,
and
when you said you knew what Ground Zero was, I was going to say, was it Goodwill?
It could have been. It was probably the Hope Center in this case, though. Anyways, the point is that I thought when I saw that, Titus would love that in his room somewhere. And so because I thought of that, and then I was like, well, maybe I'll just make him like a pillowcase so you can have neutral other things, but he can have a point with this fabric. But then because of that, I think I started thinking, I should do one for everyone for Christmas. So I ordered fabric for everyone. And they're very eccentric. And the part that was a poor choicemanship on my part was relying on what fabric I had around for the cuffs and the trim. Because I have a lot of fabric. But that made much more of a mess last night that I had to rip into all my old fabric storage looking for coordinating cuffs.
If you had just gone and bought 9 inches, it would have been easier.
Right, but I never did go to a store. I ordered it online, so then that's all that.
That'll do it.
Yeah, but it was cute, and you know what? I think they'll love it. I was remembering that Grandma sewed me that. It was like Grandma sewed me a strawberry shortcake. One, and I never even liked strawberry shortcake that much, but I loved that I had that pillowcase. Or maybe it had a bear on it. Didn't we all have them? I had, do you know what I'm talking about? There were like 3 different, I don't know. It was a thing. It's a thing that makes you feel as a child really set.
Well, I like that you're doing it because I myself am not crafting a single solitary item yet this Christmas.
Yet.
Well, we still
What's
have
in the
time.
wings? What's in the wings? Then?
Nothing. I'm dealing with the short deadlines that are finals week next week. A Christmas party for NSA staff and faculty and board and families. So that's like 150. I'm doing that a week from tonight. So I have to get through that and finals week. And then is Christmas, you see, after I get through these other things. So who knows what I might not decide to undertake after
we were going to have soup night tonight at our house, our last soup
we
night
did
time.
have soup night at our house tonight.
Well, we were going to, but then it was snowing and then slushing, and we haven't been at Mom and Dad's house in this kind of weather, and I realized all of a sudden why Mom was always feeling so treacherous about it when it was the weather, because I was like, don't want people slip sliding down the driveway or it's because it was a really slippy bad one. So we ended up canceling it tonight, but I made probably the best soup I've made this whole time. We've been doing it the night that nobody came.
Well, I did a great big huge pot, and it's finals week for NSA, and they all had a final at 7 o'clock. So they came, some of them came, it was smaller than normal. They came, did some soup, left. But then this final only took them 45 minutes. So I was getting messages saying, is it okay if people come back afterwards? I was like, yes, come have more soup.
Come eat the pot.
So they might have done it in several installments tonight. But I'm out, so I don't know if they're eating the soup or not.
Tonight I made a ham bone. I started with the ham bone from the freezer. But it was it was really good. And
That's fun.
I need to write it down probably, because you
Mine
know
was
how that is.
Mine was one that I don't know. I don't love it. It's a gnocchi soup, and some of the people are crazy for it. I myself eat it, and I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. It's like a creamy gnocchi with spinach and veg and stuff in it. But I don't know. My personal feelings are undecided on this particular soup.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I did the ham bone all day simmering with the celery and carrot and onion, and then pulled all that out and threw in leeks and fennel and celery and some potatoes and a bunch of lentils and carrots.
Is there any ham in it from the ham bone?
When I
or
pulled
not?
the bone out, then I picked it all off,
Okay.
and then I added that after it was after the lentils were cooked and everything, and was really good.
That's fun.
I think, and pepper, salt and pepper, but
That's
it
fun.
was really good and like hearty. It was kind of a lentil stew
Yeah,
sort of
see,
a
some
situation.
people on this one they made tonight are like, this is the best one you ever make. I'm like, is it though? I just, it's fine.
I had a week where I made the weirdest rolls. So weird. So unattractive. I believe that my math went wrong. I think I put an extra cup or two of flour in it because it was not behaving as I would have hoped it would behave from much earlier on in the event. Which happens even though I use my trusty tried and true method of counting cups of flour as they go in. Apparently I didn't this time. Because it's like when you're going to 16 cups of flour or something.
What's your trusty tried and true method?
I just put them in, I go in a pattern. So like it was 16. Actually, I think I figured out later what my problem was. It's like whatever number. Say I have to do like 16 cups of flour. I do it at the four corners of the bowl.
Oh, you told me this.
And
yeah.
then I work my way around filling it in, and like each tier of 4, it's like easier to keep track of.
That's smart. I do it as the KitchenAid is running though, so you can't really.
No, you
do
need
that.
like air hockey goal marker slides.
That's a good idea.
1 cup of flour, 2
Well,
cups
because I
of
talk,
flour.
I'll say it out loud, but half the time I'm on the phone with you as I'm trying to count to 14.
No,
And then
no
set
good.
it aside and then count to 14 again for the next
It's the
batch.
worst when you get interrupted, like ran out of flour, I have to go open a new bag, and you're like, 7. I haven't put 7 in yet. I'm on my way to get more flour
know,
for
'cause-
number 7.
Because I do 14 per batch, so it is 28 every week that I'm putting in.
I'm remembering now that what I did wrong, where I erred on those rolls, was that I counted correctly to 16, but I wasn't supposed to be aiming for 16, and I discovered that later. However, the point is, they were my worst, and I make a lot of bread, and if I do say so myself, I make good bread. I can consistently make the bread I meant to make within reason. There's an error of margin. This was outside.
An error of margin.
Well, emphasis
There's
on the error.
There's an error of something.
There's an error of something. A margin. I don't even want to admit how long it took me to hear what was wrong. What have I done wrong here? The margin of error. I'm not trying to say that every batch of rolls is my best batch of rolls, but this one was outside the spectrum. And sometimes you just have to be like, well, I meant well, Lord. I tried to make a decent roll for these people, but I guess they can't have one, was my feeling. But I put them out. Like, there. Everybody look at what I did. Like, you just know. And you know what happened that week? One of the girls that came through was like, oh, look at those rolls. I want to eat one of those. And I was like, those are the weirdest looking bad rolls I ever did make. And they were bad looking. They did not look like, there was nothing winsome about them. They just were blotchy and chunky, wrong. They did not have the element of
this is where-
light going for them.
Sometimes today I tell my girls, I was like, occasionally there are days when you feel like your life verse is the stars in their courses fought against Sisera.
It's not working with me.
Everything's going wrong. Because, like, currently I have not one but 2 broken dishwashers. You know, both on the blink.
What happened?
I don't know. It's like they
That's
both
rough.
went to the dark side. And,
Ugh.
you know. And so now they're stanky.
Oh!
You know, because, like, there's the water in the bottom. That's,
Merry Christmas
I
to
know.
you!
thankfully, someone's coming to look at them tomorrow, but it's still tomorrow.
Ugh.
Anyway, that's
Ugh.
happening. I feel like we should talk about something more
Edifying.
relevant to anyone besides me. Me with my broken dishwasher, you with your error of margins.
A non-marginal error.
Somebody asked us what about chronic pain, and I couldn't find the question again. I saw it come through when I was in class, and so I couldn't read the whole question, and then now I can't find it. Do you know
I
what?
think it was just asking if we could talk about chronic pain. And I think it is because of what chronic pain, if I'm remembering the question rightly, it is more about what chronic pain teaches you about the mortality situation, because that's really what it usually is like really motivated to change. Like, I'm really motivated to throw myself into my work, you know, but I'm having this problem.
Sure.
Like, I want to do a really good job being a wife and a mother, and then but instead I got sidelined and laid low. And I know that I have a lot of thoughts about this, but
I do too.
I hate to do this. I'm just going to quote myself because this is in my new book.
Who better, Rach, to quote you
Who could quote me
than
but
you?
me? I mean, but just saying that for a Christian, you can have the confidence in God that you are always in the middle of your own most important spiritual work. Like, that God does not put you where you are not supposed to be, especially in a situation like that, right? You're most important. And that doesn't mean, of course, sin and things can lead us into complicated situations. But if you're in a complicated situation, it's still your most important spiritual work to repent and get it right. Like, your most important work is always right where you are, right?
Okay.
And I think that's the problem sometimes with a situation like chronic pain is wanting God to have not given you that obstacle. Like, I would like a different obstacle than this one. But that the reality is that God is most glorified when we obey in the circumstances that He put us in, not coveting other ways to be obedient. You know, like not looking at other things that you would have liked to do,
Right.
but just faithfully doing what you can. And
Well, and I think my thought was sort of, in this day of everyone oversharing their heads off on social media, and everyone admires transparency. Like, transparency is kind of the ultimate virtue for many people, and they feel like
it's actually true. It really corresponds with tights as pants.
with what?
It's kind of the tights as pants movement.
Oh, tights
like,
as pants.
Like,
I thought you were saying
might
Titus
as well
as pants.
also not Titus as you might as well also be that visible to everyone on the internet as well.
Yeah, it's just kind of like
Keep no secrets
no.
between. Okay, we had a little glitch there,
we had some profound things we said, and it turned out
but
they weren't recorded.
I think that we can jump back in, because Becca, you go back to what you were saying.
Yeah, so I was saying that I think there's a parallel to Christ's teaching where He says, if you pray to be seen by men or you give to be seen by men, you have your reward. But the God who sees in secret will reward you openly. And I think that there are a lot of people who bring their pain or their trouble or their suffering, and they bring it out into the public eye so that everyone can see how brave they're being, and they have their reward. You know, like they're getting
Right.
it. And I think chronic pain is a tough one because it isn't a big flashy illness that you're going to be...
Well, it's usually not, it's not focused with updates
No,
and deadlines. It's an ongoing burden.
Yeah, it's an ongoing burden, and it's the kind of ongoing burden that I think you can sometimes see a lot of other people getting massively rewarded for all over social media about, oh, you are such an inspiration, and I don't know how you do it.
Or
And
it's
so
your cheerful
godly
spirit
and
is what
cheerful
really
spirit.
blows my mind.
And they put up the chronic pain updates along with beautiful selfies or something, and everybody's like, oh, and you look so lovely.
What?
Even though
you
you're hurting.
don't have time for
You know,
makeup
anyway.
tutorial.
So it's just funny because I think that there is a parallel there where there is a sort of a suffering that just, it's never going to rise to the level of everybody is dying to ask how the new cancer treatment is going. You know, like it's not like
it's not that.
It's just something that you have to
and
bear.
sometimes it's just still an aggravating problem.
And it's
for
still there.
a long time.
And it's just still there again. And I do think it's important to remember that your reward is not other people knowing about it and being impressed at how brave you are through it.
And even if other people do know and are impressed with how brave you are through it, it's still not,
It's not the point.
reward that you should be looking for.
And the thing is if you're dealing with something like that, and it doesn't even need to be chronic pain, it could be some kind of burden or sorrow or
Heartache or anything,
something that you're having to cope with, and it's very much a trial for you, but it's not a big flashy public one. Just remembering that God sees it, and really He's the only one that it matters that He see it, and
and that you don't
and
care
you
as
can-
much that people tell you good job.
No,
you want
and you
God
can
to say
offer-
well done.
You can offer your obedience through the trial up to Him, knowing that He's not going to neglect to notice it.
Right. Did I say you're always in the middle of your most important spiritual work? In the middle of what we cut off?
We cut off some stuff, so
that's
we might repeat ourselves.
One thing I was going to say is to beware of perverse incentives, basically.
Yeah.
That this is a thing we've talked about in the podcast before, about outing yourself when you realize that you're bad in one particular way, or when you suddenly see like, oh my goodness, I've been self-indulging in that place, or like, like I think examples we've used before is if you're the kind of person who's like, oh, I just have a headache, or I'm just really tired, but it's not really that accurate of an assessment of what's wrong with you. You mostly just don't feel like doing what you were supposed to be doing, or whatever. If you realize that kind of thing, like, you need to out yourself and blow your bridges immediately, and make it such that this is not a hobby of yours to have a habitual lie or a habitual, like, but to really be honest. And this is another place that I would say you want to be very hard-edged with yourself on perverse incentives. Like, if the desire to dramatize how you're feeling is at all present, it is probably because you were getting some kind of feedback. Like, there is something that you want out of the drama. And if your goal is really like, Lord, you put me here, I don't know why you gave me this burden, but I want to glorify you in it, like, show me how to do that, that you are not incentivized then to flop at the first sign of, like, you're not. I think what I'm trying to say is, everyone has seen it on the basketball court where someone gets poked in the eye and then they limp off of the court. Like, that is a human thing.
Yeah.
To have a wound in one place cause an outrage, like a full response. And the thing is that if you're there for other people's attention, if you're like, tell me, how is it going today? How can I be praying for you? What can I do for you? Well, if you're there for all that, you're incentivized to keep having the problems and the struggles and the terribles.
Because if you were to suddenly be cured of your problem, then away would go all of
away would go all the attention you've been getting and all of the glory of being the painful sufferer.
Yeah, and there are people who do revel in being the painful sufferer. And
there are also the people who have been the painful sufferer their entire life and you don't know it.
Yep.
Like, and that's a thing that you have to recognize, is that sometimes you haven't heard of anyone having this condition because no one else thought to share it with people.
Because, and I do think that our culture doesn't admire bravery as much as we admire kind of a faux bravery almost. Let me bring to your attention my pain so that I can then bring to your attention how brave I am through it.
We have a really messed up, there's a lot of ways in which our culture is seriously confused. But when I was going to the hospital with Moses, I got the giggles with one of the nurses who was doing all the paperwork with me. And she hands me this piece of paper that says upon it, I'm loosely quoting, that you have a right to a pain-free birth experience. I was like, I'm pretty sure I don't have that. Like, I'm just between you and me, I don't think this is one of my human rights. And
in fact,
she's laughing. I'm like, in fact, what we know is that birth is going to be painful. So I'm like, so why are we, like, what are we hoping for here? And I think that that's a thing, is that in generations behind us now, they didn't expect a pain-free life.
No.
We have people who expect, like, they think the human right is that you wake up energized and excellent, that you feel at your best energy levels, that you are, like, perfect health is something we think is a baseline of what we deserve.
Right.
And then anything that's not perfect is like something we've been ripped off. Like like I had this handful of money and someone is taking it away from me. So we act like we're really outraged. But we're never saying things. It's not like we're always counting the things we've lost and talking about the things that we've lost as though we had a right to them in the first place.
Yep.
And instead of the fundamental Christian business, which is the business of thanksgiving and gratitude, and noticing how much you're being given all the time. Like, how much,
And I think the thing with the chronic pain or any other sort of similar stuff is you have to turn a profit on what God gave you. And so you have to think, all right, how can I turn a profit on this that God has entrusted me with? And He has entrusted me with a lot of pain that nobody really knows or particularly sympathizes with. Or He's entrusted me with pain that everybody sees and everybody wants to help, and everybody, like, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with a ton of responsibilities and also you feel really gross all the time? Like, how are you going to turn a profit on that? And I think that if you think of it,
I just feel like saying in the middle of this, because of all the qualifications, just want to say that we're not talking in the abstract. We've both had things that we've had to bear.
Totally.
So it's not like,
that's
not what we're here to talk about.
Those people out there,
but we actually, like, this is a personal thing that you've had to process. It's not like something. It's not something that we would be like.
No, and I do think that there's a way of cheerfully bearing what God has given you, and if you're doing it right, people won't know. You know what I mean? Now, there's other things that you can be doing it right and everybody knows. I'm not saying nobody should ever know that you're sick.
That's not the meter. The meter of it is not who knows.
Right. No. And I think
it's more, is God pleased with you?
That is the point I'm trying to make,
is
the meter should not be people realizing, seeing how tough you're being,
sympathizing,
and then thinking, oh, that's so impressive of her. And I think I said this in the part that got cut out, but in the same way that I think it can be easy to cover gossip with the sort of holy veneer of let's pray for this person.
Or what's really weighing me down.
Yeah, this is weighing me down.
It's
It's a
on my heart.
concern. It's
It's on my heart right
I need
now.
to share it
Yeah.
with some. Yeah, and basically,
Really on my heart right
it's
now that my
just-
husband is not being very thoughtful. It's just been weighing me down. I'm just so worried for
No,
him.
and
that
you
he's
can't-
not walking in the spirit
and
right
you
now.
couldn't walk into your ladies' Bible study and go, "Did you hear?" But
Hopefully,
you
Lord
could
willing.
put on sort of a
Wow.
voice and say, "Ladies,
I need help. I
I
just-
covet your prayers." And so the thing is you can do the same. You can get the same thrill. You can get the same reaction. It can be just as gossipy, only you've learned how to cover it. Now, obviously, prayer requests are not bad. There's loads of ones that are fine. So it's not. This is not a anti-prayer request.
If
But-
you know when you watch the news and there's a constant scrolling banner across the
Yeah.
bottom of things,
That's our-
imagine a constant scrolling banner of
yeah,
qualifications on
us
this.
at the bottom saying
Yeah.
we're not saying
I don't mean that.
that no one can ever request prayer.
Don't no.
But
totally.
but in the same way that you can sinfully gossip, but under a certain sort of righteous layer of
right.
of people won't call you
So-
on it, sorts of things. I think other people can be tempted to sort of in the public eye suffer in such a way as to get them lots of accolades
to make it their
And-
like
and to be
MO.
like I am just, if I can be an example to anyone else out there, if I can be a help to anyone whose story, if I can just share my experience in a way that is a blessing to anyone.
Which is again scrolling qualifier, not an evil deed to want to
Nope.
bless people.
Lots of times
Tone
it's
of voice
fine.
is important here, I
Lots
think.
of times it's fine. But I do think that maybe the temptation is to see people who are doing that and then feel like, well, look at me over here not getting any of those, and I think that my chronic pain is a mile worse than
I
hers.
can't believe, and this is how
And
we
so-
have 100,000 awareness days.
Oh my word.
You
Yeah.
know, where you're like
Yeah.
sensitive to smells awareness days. Well, have you ever seen things like that? Like
Oh,
little
yeah,
activists
yeah.
who don't want perfume samples to be in the magazines.
People
and
who
stuff.
don't like Pound Cake Awareness Day.
Stop afflicting me with your Sara Lee's. So I have to say though that I've been listening. I listen to Screw Tape Letters a couple chapters at a time sometimes, and I was listening to it today, and I feel like this is a parallel. Even though I'm going to botch the quote, it still was really good. He was talking about selfishness or selflessness, and he was talking about those people who give to others not out of a desire to see the other person be happy, but they give out of a desire to see themselves be selfless.
Yep.
Like, who's the star of this show?
Yep.
And that is the thing that comes up
This
here is because
is the difference.
the heart of the matter is like, are you bearing your own trial out of a desire to genuinely see other people not have to carry it for you? You know what I mean? Like your husband, or like, can I be joyful today instead of moaning all along about my troubles? Can I
Right.
just be joyful genuinely to see him happy? Or is
Yep.
it all about watching me be brave? You know, and the reality is that whenever you're doing it all about you, it will pop.
Yep.
It will pop. And when it pops, it will pop so hard.
But it really is a question of what how are you framing this little narrative? And if it's a case of, here's what God has given me, how can I turn a profit on it, whether it's a trial or an affliction or an illness or a betrayal or whatever it is that God has given you, how are you going to give it back to Him? And are you going to give it back to Him with interest or not? And I think you have to think about you giving it back to God and you offering it up to God, and you should be willing to have Him be the only one who sees it. And
Right.
and it should be primarily like, if anybody else sees it, that's an incidental for you. It's not like that, whether they see it or not is really not the issue. It's just, who are you doing it for? Who are you being brave for?
I think it is to be a good
Is it kind
time.
of like, you know how there's that sort of feeling now that if you didn't post it on Instagram, did it really happen?
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like, if nobody noticed me be brave, was I even brave?
Did we vacation if it didn't make other people want to have done it?
Right. And so I just think that like there's a sense in which I think all of us could stand to be a little bit more valiant in our life.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's just a helpful perspective, even if you're not dealing with any real substantive issues. Do you know what I mean? Like, we all need to have
Maybe
this approach
it's just
to the little
kind
things.
of a little
you know?
bit of a morose time in Milwaukee that you're having.
You're gonna stigmatize another place in the Midwest. We've been, guys, ever since the great Minnesota episode, we've been causing everyone to struggle. Mostly, I have to give a shout out to Sylvia because we were laughing about her saying, Ben and Becca recently traveled in real life, to Minnesota.
Yeah, we got back last week.
Which basically made none of us able to talk about it. Well, you know how Ben and Becca are getting ready to go to... They're taking a trip to... you know, they're traveling. They're traveling. Anyways.
They're going to the Midwest.
Yes, yeah. They're doing one of
man.
those things. Anyways, the point is, Becca's trying to rope in another Midwest place.
I just pulled that out of nowhere. I was just saying that, like, you know, maybe you're just having a kind of a bleak time.
I'll tell you.
In wherever you are.
Isn't it Heather who has cousins that call it the Clevelandiers? Because there's a family, they happened to live in Cleveland for a short phase. But the way I hear it told, they lived in Cleveland when all of the kids had acne and braces and were at gangly ages, and they were swimming, so they were all super pale and acne, and so they just refer to anyone's awkward years as the Cleveland years. Because when they lived in Cleveland was not their best time. Not their most attractive.
But I just mean, okay, so let's say you're having your own Cleveland deer.
Uh-huh.
And it's nothing real big.
Like, what if it's the postpartum train wreck that can happen?
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Or it's a chronic pain thing, or it's just whatever. You're in a difficult phase of life, or things are really hard with your husband's job, or things are tough in your marriage, or whatever it is. Whatever trial you've been given, big or small, Rachel's getting the giggles about it. That's what it is.
I just remembering a meme somebody shared of a lady shoveling ice cream into her face while crying that said, when you eat because you're sad, and you're sad because you're fat, and you're fat because you eat. Like you've gotten yourself into a terrible cycle you cannot break out.
Yep. I just think there's, whatever it is, particularly if it's a long-term behind-the-scenes thing, I just think it's a question of give it to God and give it only to Him.
And that's that thing in John about a seed that dies and goes into the ground is the one that produces fruit. And I've used this before because I think it comes up a lot in our lives that when God gives us seeds instead of planting them, which is really by default a silent, boring place to put them. Do you know what I mean? Like when you actually plant something, you let go of it. You are not currently living with it. You stuck it somewhere else and you left it to God. And he talks about, you know, all things in Him, like what's sown in. Well, I think I'm mashing up some verses there. I was gonna say, but that's
sown
about
in
the
hope
resurrection.
It will be raised in glory.
Yeah, but that's not in John. That's in 1 Corinthians 15. But anyways, whatever the case, what I'm trying to say is it talks about a seed that's really died and been planted is one that will come back with an enormous harvest.
Yep.
And I think that this comes up all the time when parents have kids who don't turn out well. they often go get the photo album, the family album of all the seeds they planted that are stuck behind the plastic. And they're like, see, I did this for them, and I did this for them, and I did this for them, and I did this. And it's like, you did all those things, but you didn't plant it. Like, you didn't let that go.
Right.
You stuck it in an album to look at all the time how much you sacrificed and to think about how much you did for them.
Yep.
And instead of having that come back 100-fold, when Christ just makes it fruitful, like he just makes it matter. And I think that the question that we actually got was someone who really has a desire to be doing more and be being more helpful, but is having health problems that are keeping her from that.
Right.
And this is that you let it go into the ground in Christ, and it will be fruitful, and it will be more fruitful than any imagined seeds you could plant in your imagination.
No, and it will be probably different than the fruit you wanted to grow.
That's all right.
Yeah, because
it turns out we're not the master and commander.
No, if God is growing a watermelon patch with you, but you
go with that. You go.
You wanted dahlias. It's like, well,
lots of conflict there.
God gave you some seeds to plant. You plant them.
And you
let
see
God
what he intends with it.
See what he's going to grow with it, because you have no idea how God will use your faithfulness. And somebody else's faithfulness may look like being a crazy multitasker who doesn't need any sleep, who just gets so much stuff done. That might be somebody else's fruit, somebody else's faithfulness. And he might have given you...
You're making me sort of look into the distance and think, what would that be like?
But if he's giving
I didn't need much sleep?
Some kind of a burden where it's like, you can't do that.
That is, whatever you have in your hands is what the Lord is asking you to plant. Like, that's just what it is. And so you say, okay, and do you have, I hope you have kids, I'm sure you've done the thing where you're like, they're like, can I help, Mom? Can I help? And you're like, sure, unload the dishwasher. And they're like, I didn't mean with that. Like, I was thinking more chopping this onion. And you're like, no, if you're not willing to do the job that I give you, you're not willing to help.
Right.
You're trying to have a recreational time is what you're trying to do. And it's true of us. Like, when we say, like, here I am, Lord, like I'm your servant. And he says, great, take out the trash. And you're like, well, I don't want to do that. Like, then it shows that we didn't really have our heart in wanting to be used wherever he puts us. Like, that we want to be doing what he called us to do.
Frequently we get ourselves into trouble when we are measuring our obedience or our fruitfulness next to the person that we are looking at across the way, rather than offering it up to God and measuring it vertically. We kind of like to measure horizontally.
I'm thinking of another thing my kids do that's a big no-no in our house. It is when they say something like, can I have a granola bar, Mom? Because Shad had one. When the reason you're asking for something is because someone else had it. It's like, no, that is not a reason. Like, if you, and it's the same way, it's the same thing with asking the Lord for something, because, like, if it's like, I want to be like that person, I'm envying that, I want that. God doesn't bless that. That's not what those are not the prayers that you get the answers for. When you say, Lord, give me the grace to do what you want me to be doing right now, he always answers those prayers.
Yeah. And I think we always should be wanting to be diligent and hardworking, and sometimes that's going to look different than other times.
I always quote Anna Edwards when she said to me that sometimes we just have to endure to the glory of God. Like, sometimes you just have to endure it to his glory, and that's really it. Like, there's no big fanfare around it.
No.
It was just getting through to the glory of God.
And that is a fruit. So
it is definitely a fruit. Okay, so let's move on to a tip.
Yes.
Tipster, what do you got up your sleeve? She laughs like she has no tips.
I laugh because I am completely devoid of tips. and I'm
The
thinking I'm
sea
getting a
is
sore
getting
throat.
dry. The well has
It's getting dry, my love. All the sea's getting
getting
dry.
dry.
And I thought I had a cough drop, but I don't.
Well, Becca's tip is she doesn't have a cough drop, and she has no tips.
And I like that I've just told everyone, I think I'm getting a sore throat.
Hey, everyone! Write in this week with praises for Becca's bravery as she pushes through her impending
practical
sore throat.
application in process.
We're gonna do a 24-hour support-a-thon for Becca and her sore throat that she predicts is coming her way. Your bravery is an inspiration to all of us.
I try.
Someday I'm gonna grow up and be just like
If
you.
only I could encourage some of you. Oh, wow. Okay,
My
You give a
tip
tip.
is to panic about Christmas now and look over it. But my tip
Oh.
I'm currently using is a tip of have your husband hide a bunch of presents you can't remember in the attic where you can't find them.
Oh, no.
And then he'll have to come find them, but I don't even know who they're for or who we got stuff for. And we gotta sort that out ASAP to find out if
Seems
we totally
that way.
neglected one child or not.
You
We
might
never
have.
know.
You might have.
And yeah, but that's not my best tip. It's not my best work.
You think you could have done better on
I think
that?
I could have done better, but that's all I got
Oh.
anyways. So
Wow, Rach, we need to start, like, actually...
you always say that. Just don't feel shamed.
we
we
need
have
to-
no tips. We have none. We got no tips.
I feel like we gotta start thinking during the week. You know, like...
I think we should start thinking during the week as well, but I don't know that we're doing it.
I'm pretty sure we're not. I just mean...
I mean,
It
just
would be good.
thinking at all.
Yeah,
We
there's
should
that.
think during the week.
I'm
surely
not
there's
sure. Like,
something.
if we work on it anymore, will we think of one?
I have a great sugar cookie recipe. If you're doing sugar cookies, by all means, use meringue powder in the frosting.
It's good.
Make an icing that will set up and be decoratable. That's what my
Okay.
kids are doing that
Wait,
tonight.
though. I have no tip.
Don't fiddle about with powdered sugar and something without any real active
Stability agent.
holding on to itself.
Meringue powder is good. But I found that if you get your meringue powder frosting, like if you get it all to the right consistency where it's not goopy thick, but it's not crazy runny thin, it's
Right.
just that sort of nice middle of the road. Grab your sugar cookie by the edges and just dip it lightly in the frosting. Turn it over and it will puddle out a little bit and it will dry perfectly flat and pretty. Because you know how they always tell you to pipe around the outside edge and then fill inside and the piping
Yeah.
will keep it. You can actually achieve the same effect with a quick dip if you do it right.
I
And
use a squirt bottle like a ketchup bottle. Nope. Not like the actual ketchup bottle rinsed out, but like the little squeezy
Yeah,
ones
like
that
a
are in the
squeezy
cake
tube,
decorator. I suddenly had flashes of people picturing me with the big Hunt's ketchup bottle.
that is what I had in
and I'm
my...
like, that wasn't what I
That's
did.
what I was picturing.
It's not what I did. And then, but it's just as easy. But I've made some really cute ones in the past that were kind of modern arty, where we lined a bazillion, when you're doing them like for something,
Mm-hmm.
I lined them all up on parchment, like sheets, pretty close together.
Yeah.
And I essentially splatter painted them, like where you drizzle them with one color and then splatted like I had a lot of different colors, and they were actually super cute that way.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. I just mean, you know how, like, if you have a really well frosted sugar cookie, it's not running down the sides. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
like all
Yes,
just
I know what you
located
mean.
on the
Yeah.
top. You can get that with a dip.
And my other
And then if you dip it and then turn it over, you can add, like, with a squeeze bottle, you can add, like, polka dots into the wet frosting, and it will meld into it
Yeah.
nicely. Anyway,
I spent years on the struggle bus of sugar cookies because I like a good sugar cookie.
Me too.
But I like it. I also apparently fuss about sugar cookies because I would make them and just think that wasn't it.
No.
Like, that's not what I want to see from a sugar cookie. When they puff too much, or they're
too crispy around the edges.
They're too crispy, or they're too soft, or they're not, or they just
slightly
don't hold their
doughy.
shape, or they're an incredible pain to work with.
A little bit too cakey.
One thing I'll do sometimes, because my recipe, which I really love, obviously is a lot of butter in it, so it can get too soft as a dough. You know, like you have it in the fridge, but then it can get kind of soft when you're working with it. And so one thing I do, because I use the restaurant baking parchment all the time, I'll roll it out between parchment, and sometimes if it's just feeling too soft, my cookie recipe, I cut them out and I put them back in the fridge on the cookie sheet for a little bit and then bake them.
Okay.
So, but sometimes if that's happening, I will just put the whole parchment sheet of dough with the cutouts, but I have not lifted them out of the dough, back in the fridge, and then when I'm going to bake it, I pull all the outside webbing off of it and spread them out once they're set up again.
Sure.
Into a nice.
Well, that's good.
Generally, I'm a little more. Now I just kind of dash them on out and let the kids decorate them, but you know, I've been through some times.
I haven't actually made a sugar cookie in quite a while. I should probably get back around to that, but.
Well, I did. My kids are decorating them tonight, and I'm always glad to cross it off of the December list. Did that.
My solution is don't put it on the December list.
Your kids are a little bit older. My kids still care to have decorated a cookie at Christmas time.
Yeah, we're not in that mood right now.
Yeah. So for me, it's all about getting it done. Like, okay, we did that. Success.
That's
part
good.
of Christmas
That's
celebrating.
fun.
All right. Merry Advent.
We
See you
struggled
next time.
out a tip at the end. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You think of yourself now, and then in 4 years' time, what do you want yourself to look like? And is the education that you're considering going to help you get to that place?
When you're a student, you want to become like your teacher. You're going to become like your teacher. Looking at NSA beforehand, I knew I wanted to become like the men who are teaching here.
Fireman, husband, father, doctor, no matter where you want to go, NSA is just such good preparation for the person that you want to be.
If you want to be an effective Christian, you need to be able to lead and shape culture. If you want to do that, no matter what your occupation is, you need to shape yourself, prepare yourself as a person for that job. And liberal arts is, I think, the best education you can have for that.
To learn more, check us out online at nsa.edu.